Hi, I'm JODY PLAUCHE. When I was in fifth grade, I got a notice from the school to sign up for karate. I was playing football, basketball, and baseball. I didn't feel like I needed to take karate, so I threw the notice away. My little brother also went to another school in the same school district, and he got the same notice. So my mother thought it would be a good idea to sign him up since he didn't play any sports. Eventually, we ended up taking karate from a man named Jeff Doucette. He was 23 years old. He had his own karate school, and he would do karate tournaments, fighting teams, like in the movie Karate Kid. So he told my mother, he's like, hey, I think your kids, they're very athletic. I think they would be good. Let's get them on the fighting team. And so what parent isn't thrilled to hear that your child's going to be a good fighter or excel in whatever sport they're taking? So my parents let us go. Well, the first trip I didn't go on. I was playing all-star basketball, and my older brother and my little brother, they went to Houston, and it was a great trip. I heard all the stories when I got back about how much fun they had. My little brother got left at the gas station, so I couldn't wait to go on the next trip. Well, in between these trips, all of a sudden, Jeff Doucette started grooming me. He started touching me kind of like inappropriately, which made it seem like it wasn't that big of a deal. I'd be stretching. He'd put his hand between my legs and go, you got to get firm. It was something to where if I was alarmed or got freaked out, he could go, oh, well, it was an accident, tickling. I would be driving a car and he put his hands in my lap, and it just kind of freaked me out. So I eventually didn't think nothing of it. And eventually it escalated. It got to the point to where we were on a trip in Houston, and he literally said, I'm going to perform oral sex on you. And that night when the TV went off, he went underneath the covers, and that's exactly what he did. And a month later is when he started actually sodomizing me. So part of the grooming process is gaining not just the trust of the child, but the trust of the family. So my dad went on one of the road trips to Houston. It was just, this guy seemed like so much fun to be around, but he was doing this to gain the trust so he could abuse me. And this went on for about a year. I guess the grooming process lasted a couple months, but the first time he actually performed oral sex on me was in April of 1983. And then eventually it led to my kidnapping. He kidnapped me and took me to Los Angeles, California, because he didn't have the money. He was a con man. And so he had kind of, I don't want to say embezzled, but he had kind of taken some money and had a court date. And the court date was coming up. And since I was his romantic interest for the previous year, and this would go on 2 to 3 times. Probably once a day, every day, sometimes twice a day if he had me on the weekends. And if I was there for a 3-day weekend, it would be nonstop. It was terrible. And so this went on for about a year, and I was taken to Anaheim, California, eventually, where I was rescued by the FBI. One of the things is he never threatened me. I've learned in the years past that there's something called compliant victimization. That's where a child is being abused, but they're getting attention. I didn't feel like I was a needy kid, but Jeff, would give me money. We'd go to the movies. We'd go ice skating. We'd go to the mall. He would let me stay up past 10 o'clock. So all the things little kids wanted, he would grant. So I became a compliant victim. I, didn't want to tell because I didn't want to upset grown-ups. I didn't want to upset my parents. People say, oh, Jody, why didn't you tell? I knew my dad would kill him. So on February 19th, 1984, Jeff's brother dropped him off at my parents' house. And he asked my mom if he could borrow her car because his brother owned a carpet business. And one of the other karate students their parents was building a house. And he wanted to go check to make sure the carpet had been delivered. So he said, June, can Jody come ride with me? And I said, okay. Well, I knew Jeff had plans to run and get out of town, but I didn't know exactly when those plans were. So when we got in a car, we're riding out to his brother's house in Gonzales, Louisiana. And I'm like, where are we going? He says, look, Jody, he says, we're going. Now's the time. We're going to California. So we picked up a few of his things. We drove to Port Arthur, Texas. And it took him 2 days to get the money to get the bus ticket to go to Los Angeles. He had to get a birth certificate, his brother's birth certificate, so he could change his identity. He said that I was his son. And I mean, he looked old for his age. He was only like 24 or 25 years old, but he looked old for his age. And so we went out to California. First time I ever saw the Hollywood sign. I thought it was kind of awesome. We were driving. As soon as we got into LA, we drove through Skid Row, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. The bus announcer was like, "If you look outside, you'll see Skid Row." So I looked out the window. There's all these homeless people, and I'd never seen a homeless person in my life before. So I saw the Hollywood sign. I saw homeless people, and then eventually we went to Canoga Park for a day. Then we took a bus to Anaheim, California, and the next day I went to Disneyland. So people wonder like, oh, well, why don't kids tell? I had the perfect opportunity. I was in the happiest place on earth. And it wasn't that I was happy I was being kidnapped. It wasn't that I was happy I was being molested. But it was just, that's what compliant victims do. I was 10, I was 11. I didn't know how to tell. So whenever you see a child that doesn't come forward, or if a rape victim takes, 30 years, like in the Bill Cosby case, you know what? A lot of times that's normal. When the 60 women came forward to Cosby, I said, that's normal. In 2002, you had the church scandal where the Catholic Church had the priests that were molesting kids. And that was secret for years. But whenever that well broke, whenever the first people started coming forward, it was boom, 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 boom. Anyway, so I'm JODY PLAUCHE. I used to be the supervisor in Montgomery County for community education programs at Victim Services Center. And that's where they had the Bill Cosby trial. And in a way, it was kind of neat to see, my old town where I used to live being on the news. Y'all have a good day.